Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and we're diving deep into a story that's generating significant buzz across the sporting world, with implications that reach far beyond the pitch. South Africa's Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, has made a major announcement that could fundamentally change the beautiful game in his nation. He says his department has allocated funding for the introduction of the Video Assistant Referee, or VAR, system into South African football. This is a monumental step for a league that has long debated the technology's merits and costs. But is this purely good news? What are the real-world implications, the financial burdens, and the potential for unintended consequences? Tonight, we're going to unpack this story from every angle. We'll look at the global context of VAR, examine the financials, debate its impact on the sport's spirit, and even draw a surprising parallel to a new action film set in Angola. This is a 12-minute deep dive you won't want to miss. Let's start with the announcement itself. On Wednesday, Minister Gayton McKenzie confirmed that after years of deliberation, the South African government, through his department, is ready to financially back the rollout of VAR in the country's top-flight Premier Soccer League. The exact figure hasn't been disclosed publicly yet, but estimates from similar implementations in other mid-tier leagues suggest a startup cost in the range of 50 million to 80 million rand. That's roughly 500 million to 800 million shillings. This isn't just buying a few extra cameras. This is a complete technological ecosystem. It requires multiple high-speed, ultra-high-definition cameras installed at every stadium, a dedicated VAR hub with certified officials, fiber optic communication links, and years of training for both referees and broadcast teams. The operational cost is another layer, estimated to add between 3.8% and 5% to a league's annual operating budget. For a league like South Africa's PSL, that could mean an additional 20 million rand, or about 200 million shillings, per season just to keep the system running. Proponents argue this investment is non-negotiable for credibility. They point to the 2022 FIFA World Cup, where VAR was used in every match, and the general consensus was that it improved decision accuracy. A FIFA study after that tournament claimed key match decision accuracy rose to 99.32%, up from 95.6%. Without VAR, the argument is simple. South African football cannot claim to be a world-class product if it doesn't use world-class officiating tools. The fear of a major game-changing error in a continental final or a crucial league decider is a powerful motivator. McKenzie's announcement is framed as preemptive, a move to protect the integrity of the sport before a scandal forces their hand. However, the opposition to this move is vocal and passionate. Let's hear the counter-argument. Critics, including many former players and a significant portion of the fan base, see VAR as a cure that's worse than the disease. They argue it strips football of its essential human element, the flowing, emotional, sometimes flawed drama that has made it the world's game. They point to the English Premier League, where VAR controversies have become a weekly storyline, often overshadowing the football itself. The complaints are numerous, interminable delays that kill match momentum, forensic offside decisions that rule out goals by millimeters, and a persistent sense of confusion over what constitutes a clear and obvious error. There's a financial fairness argument, too. Is it right for a government department to allocate hundreds of millions of shillings to a technology for a professional sports league, when that same funding could support grassroots sports development, community arts programs, or stadium infrastructure in disadvantaged areas? The Premier Soccer League is a commercial entity with broadcast deals and sponsorships. Shouldn't the league and its clubs bear this cost if they deem it necessary? By funding it directly, the government is effectively subsidizing a private competition. Furthermore, there's a competitive balance concern. If VAR is implemented only in the top division, it creates a massive technological gulf between the PSL and the lower-tier Glad Africa Championship. A team promoted from the second division would face not just better players, but an entirely new, complex layer of officiating they've never experienced. This could widen the gap between the haves and have-nots in the football pyramid. To understand the scale of this undertaking, let's visualize what VAR implementation truly entails. It's not one purchase. It's a multi-year project with several distinct phases. First, there's the procurement and installation phase. This involves sourcing certified hardware from a limited number of FIFA-approved vendors, then physically installing between 8 and 12 dedicated camera systems in each of the approximately 16 PSL stadiums. This phase alone could take 6 to 9 months. Concurrently, you have the training and certification phase. The South African Football Association, SAFA, would need to identify and train a pool of at least 20 to 25 dedicated VAR officials. These aren't just any referees, they require specific aptitude for technology and video analysis. FIFA mandates a rigorous training program that often involves sending officials abroad to already established VAR centers. This training can take another 6 months. Then comes the integration and testing phase. This is where broadcast partners, stadium technicians, and the refereeing team run live simulations. They test communication protocols, video feed latency, and decision-making processes in real-time scenarios. This phase is critical to avoid the disastrous launch problems seen in some leagues. Finally, you reach the operational phase, which begins with a soft launch, perhaps in a cup competition, before a full league rollout. From funding approval to a fully operational system, a realistic timeline is 18 to 24 months. So, while McKenzie's announcement is significant, fans shouldn't expect to see VAR in use next weekend. This is a long-term infrastructural play. Now, let's pivot to a fascinating, if unexpected, parallel. Our research today also highlighted a new action thriller film titled Outgunned, set in Angola in 2013. The film's plot involves a crack military unit pursuing what they believe are poachers, only to discover a far more sadistic operation, a child hunting gang. The antagonists use technology in a horrifying way, burying children in coffins with a Wi-Fi connection to torment them. This dark narrative, while fictional, offers a stark metaphor for our discussion about technology in football. The intention behind VAR, like the military unit's mission, is noble: to pursue truth and justice, to catch the poachers of the game, the bad calls, the cheating. But what if the technological pursuit itself becomes the story? What if, in our quest for perfect, millimeter-accurate justice, we bury the spontaneous joy of the game? The film's villains pervert technology to create suffering. Critics of VAR argue that an overzealous application of the technology can pervert the sport, creating a cold, forensic, and joyless experience. The child in the coffin could be seen as the raw, emotional celebration of a goal, now trapped under the weight of a 2-minute video review, its fate decided by a line drawn on a screen by someone miles away. This isn't to equate football with a life or death thriller, but the thematic parallel is powerful. Technology introduced with good intentions can have unintended, corrosive side effects. It can change the nature of the experience itself. In football, the question becomes, are we willing to sacrifice a degree of fluidity and immediate passion for a higher degree of factual accuracy? There's no easy answer, and Outgunned reminds us that the tools we use to hunt monsters can sometimes reshape us in the process. Let's bring this back to hard numbers and the global landscape. South Africa wouldn't be a pioneer here, it would be a follower. VAR is now operational in over 50 professional leagues worldwide. Its adoption curve is telling. The first major league to adopt it was Germany's Bundesliga in 2017, followed by Italy's Serie A, Spain's La Liga, and England's Premier League in 2019. The cost and complexity delayed its introduction in many other federations. For comparison, Major League Soccer in the United States implemented VAR in 2017 at a reported startup cost of around $4 million, roughly 520 million shillings at the time. They reported an initial increase in correct calls from 92% to 96%. However, they also noted that the average added time per match increased by approximately 1 minute and 30 seconds due to reviews. In South Africa's context, the benefits must be weighed against not just the rand and cent cost, but against opportunity cost. That 3.8% of the sports budget going to VAR operations is 3.8% not going to, for example, developing women's football, which receives a fraction of the funding and attention of the men's game, or to supporting athletic programs in schools. The debate, therefore, isn't just technological or sporting, it's deeply philosophical about the role of government in sport. Should it fund the pinnacle of professional competition, or should it focus on the foundation? Minister McKenzie, by making this allocation, is clearly choosing a top-down approach, elevate the professional product with the hope that its success trickles down. It's a bet on prestige and modernization. As we near the end of our deep dive, let's consider the human element often lost in these debates, the referees. Imagine being a match official in the PSL for years. You've made split-second decisions in a cauldron of noise, trusted your eyes and your instincts. Now, you're told that a team of your colleagues in a remote studio, with access to slow-motion replays and multiple angles, will be checking your every major call. It's a fundamental shift in psychology and authority. Some referees welcome it as a safety net. Others resent it as a public undermining of their competence. The data from early adopter leagues shows an interesting trend. On-field referees, knowing they're being watched, sometimes become hesitant to make big calls, deferring to the VAR by not blowing the whistle. This can lead to play continuing awkwardly while everyone waits for a potential review. The dynamic changes from a captain steering a ship to a co-pilot system. Furthermore, the pressure on the VAR officials themselves is immense. They are making decisions that will be dissected in high definition on television and social media, yet they are faceless, their voices never heard by the public. The stress and scrutiny in that booth are unique. Implementing VAR isn't just a technical challenge, it's a profound cultural shift for the entire refereeing community. South Africa will need to manage this transition with exceptional care to avoid a crisis of confidence among its officials. So, where does this leave us? Gayton McKenzie's VAR announcement is undeniably a landmark moment for South African football. It signals an ambition to align with global standards and protect the sport's integrity at the highest level. The allocated funding, likely in the hundreds of millions of shillings, is a substantial commitment from the public purse. The projected timeline suggests we could see the system in operation by the 2027 or 2028 season. The potential benefits are clear: fewer game-altering errors, increased fairness, and enhanced credibility for the PSL on the African and world stage. However, the risks and costs are equally clear. There's the financial opportunity cost. What other sporting initiatives will be deprioritized? There's the cultural risk. Could VAR dampen the passionate, spontaneous atmosphere that makes South African football unique? And there's the operational hurdle, executing a flawless implementation after seeing so many other leagues stumble out of the gate. Like the military unit in Outgunned, South African football is embarking on a mission with a clear objective. But they must be vigilant that in their pursuit of technological justice, they don't lose sight of the soul of the game they're trying to protect. The coming months of procurement, training, and testing will be crucial. The world will be watching to see if South Africa can learn from the mistakes of others and deliver a VAR system that enhances the game without overshadowing it. This is more than a news story, it's a case study in modern sports governance. We'll be following it closely. For now, that's our deep dive. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today.